You slowly become aware of something. Not a sound, not a movement, but a feeling. A quiet, unnatural warmth. It spreads across your skin in a way that doesn't belong, not comforting, not painful, just wrong. For a moment you don't open your eyes, you just exist inside that feeling. And then slowly you breathe in. The air tastes dry, burnt, like something old has been left to smoulder for far too long. You open your eyes. Darkness, not complete, but close enough. Shadows stretch across a narrow space around you. The walls feel too near, even if you can't see them clearly. There's a ceiling above you, low, pressing down. You don't remember how you got here. That thought lingers, but doesn't panic you. Not yet. You shift slightly, and that's when you feel it. The weight of your own body, it's heavier than it should be. Not just tired, not just stiff, something deeper. As if your body doesn't fully belong to you anymore. You lift your hand slowly, at least you try to. There's a delay, a strange, subtle disconnect between the thought and the movement. Then your hand rises into view. You don't react at first, you just stare at it. The skin isn't right, rough, uneven, darkened in places like something has burned and never healed. Your fingers twitch slightly, and then you notice them. The metal, long, thin blades extending from where your fingers should end. Not attached, integrated, as if they were always meant to be there. You don't remember this. You don't remember any of it. Your breathing becomes a little slower, not faster, slower, like your body is trying to adjust to something it already understands, even if you don't. Or do you sit up? The space around you shifts with you. The shadows move, stretching across what now looks like a small, enclosed room. The walls are worn, cracked, old. There's something faintly familiar about it, but the familiarity doesn't bring comfort. It brings distance, like remembering a dream you were never supposed to recall. You swing your legs over the side of what you now realize is a bed. The floor beneath your feet is cold, too cold. It seeps upward, slowly, as if the ground itself is trying to pull something out of you. You stand, your balance is off, not unstable, just different. You take a step forward. The sound echoes more than it should, a hollow, empty sound. There's no life here, no movement, no presence, just you. And the silence. You reach out almost without thinking, and touch the wall beside you. Your fingers, the blades scrape lightly across the surface. A sharp, quiet sound. You stop. That sound feels important. Not in your mind, but somewhere deeper. Instinct. You pull your hand back slowly. There's a flicker of something then. Not a memory, not fully, but close. A hallway dimly lit. Children running, voices, laughter. Then screaming. It's gone before you can hold on to it. Your head tilts slightly. You don't question it. Not yet. Instead, you move forward. There's a door ahead of you. You didn't notice it before. Or maybe it wasn't there. You can't be sure. You step closer. The air changes as you approach. It becomes heavier, thicker, like stepping into something unseen. Your hand lifts again, slowly. The blades catch what little light exists, reflecting a dull, metallic glint. You pause just before touching the handle. Something inside you hesitates, not fear. Something else, something quieter, something older. Then, without fully deciding to, you push the door open. It creaks, soft, prolonged. The kind of sound that stretches time. Beyond it, there is another space, wider, darker, and waiting. You step through, and the moment you do, you feel it. Not around you, not ahead of you, but within you. A presence, familiar, patient. Like it has been there far longer than you have. Watching, waiting, and now, awake. You don't know where you are, you don't know what you are, but somewhere deep inside, something does. And it doesn't feel new, it feels like something you've been for a very long time. The silence returns, but it's no longer empty. And now, it feels like it's listening. You remain still for a moment after stepping through the doorway, as if the space itself is waiting for you to move first. The darkness here feels deeper, thicker, like it has weight. It doesn't just surround you, it presses gently against your skin. You take another slow breath, and again that dry, burnt taste fills your mouth. It lingers longer this time. You begin to notice something else beneath it, something faint, metallic, almost like old blood that has long since dried but never truly disappeared. You don't react. Not yet. Your mind is still quiet. Too quiet. You take a step forward, and the floor beneath you responds with that same hollow echo. The sound stretches unnaturally, as if the room is larger than it should be. Or emptier. You can't tell which. Your eyes adjust slowly, revealing vague shapes ahead. Walls, maybe, or something pretending to be walls. The space doesn't feel stable. It feels like it could shift at any moment if you looked away for too long. Your hand twitches slightly at your side, and the blades scrape softly against each other. That sound again, sharper now, more defined. It sends a subtle vibration through your arm, and for a brief second, something clicks. Not a full memory, just a sensation. Control, precision, purpose. Your fingers flex again, more deliberately this time. The blades follow, smooth, effortless, as if they belong there, as if they've always been part of you. You tilt your head slightly, studying the movement. There's no pain, no discomfort, only familiarity. And that feeling begins to settle deeper inside you. You take another step, then another. The darkness doesn't move away from you, it moves with you. You begin to realize that you're not just walking through it, you're part of it. That thought should disturb you, but it doesn't. Instead, it feels natural. Your breathing remains slow, steady, almost detached from everything around you. You pass what looks like a wall, and for a brief moment, your reflection catches in something metallic embedded within it. You stop. You don't turn fully. You just shift your gaze slightly. The figure staring back at you is wrong. The face is burned. Not fresh, not raw, but permanently altered. Skin stretched, darkened, uneven, eyes sunken, but awake, watching. You don't flinch, you don't step back, you simply observe. There's no shock, no denial, just recognition without understanding. You lift your hand again, slowly, and bring it closer to your face. The blades hover just beneath your gaze. You notice the faint stains along the metal. Dark, old, layered. You don't know where they came from, but something inside you does, and it doesn't feel like regret. You lower your hand again. The reflection fades as you move. You continue forward. The space seems to stretch endlessly, but you don't feel lost. Not exactly. It's more like you're being guided, not by sight, not by sound, but by something internal, a pull, a direction that doesn't need explanation. As you walk, the air begins to change again. Warmer now, slightly heavier. The burnt smell intensifies, wrapping around you like a memory you can't quite reach. And then you hear it. Faint at first. So faint you almost mistake it for silence, but it's there. A distant sound, soft, uneven, yet like something trying to breathe or whisper. You stop again. The sound stops with you, you wait. It returns, slightly clearer now, not a voice, not yet, but something close. You turn your head slightly, following it without thinking. Your body responds before your mind does. Step by step you move toward it. The darkness shifts again, but this time it feels intentional, like it's opening for you, or leading you somewhere it already knows you belong. The sound grows just a little louder, still distant, still unclear, but now you feel something else with it, a presence, not separate from you, not entirely, something connected, something that recognizes you even if you don't recognize it. Your pace doesn't change, slow, steady, unavoidable. The closer you get, the more that feeling deepens. Not fear, not curiosity, something heavier. There's something older, like stepping into a role you never chose, but were always meant to fill. Your fingers flex again, the blades catching faint traces of light as they move. And this time, you don't study them, you don't question them, you simply let them exist, because somewhere inside you the question's already gone. You don't need to understand what you are. Not yet. Because something else is beginning to understand you, and it has been waiting far longer than you've been aware. You continue moving toward the faint sound, each step slow and deliberate, as if rushing would somehow break whatever fragile connection is forming around you. The darkness no longer feels like an obstacle. It feels responsive, as if it bends slightly to your presence, adjusting itself in subtle ways you can't fully see but somehow understand. So the sound grows clearer, though it still resists definition. It isn't quite a voice, but it carries the shape of one, something unfinished, something trying to become real. You pause again, listening. This time the silence doesn't swallow the sound. It holds it, suspends it in place, like it's waiting for you to recognize it. You tilt your head slightly, focusing. There's a rhythm to it now, uneven, almost like breathing or struggling to breathe. A flicker passes through your mind. A room, brighter than this one. A bed, someone lying still, sheets twisted, the air thick with something unseen. And then, eyes opening suddenly, wide, terrified. The image vanishes before it can settle. You don't reach for it, you don't try to hold it, but something inside you tightens, just slightly. You take another step forward. The floor beneath you feels different now, softer, not physically, but in a way that doesn't belong to the body. More like stepping through a memory than a place. The walls around you seem less defined. Edges blur. Corners dissolve. The space is changing, or maybe you are. You lift your hand again, almost absent-mindedly. The blades reflect something new this time. Not light, but movement. Shadows drifting across their surface that don't match the room around you. You stop. You watch them. For a moment, it feels like you're seeing something from somewhere else. A different place, a different layer of whatever this is. Your fingers flex slowly. The shadows follow, then disappear. You lower your hand, the sound returns, closer now, clearer. And this time, it almost forms a word, not spoken, not directly, but you feel it trying. Your body responds before your thoughts can catch up. You move faster now, not rushing, but drawn, pulled forward by something that feels increasingly familiar. The space opens slightly ahead of you, a wider area. The darkness thins just enough to reveal shapes that almost resemble objects. A bed, another one, empty, then another, rows of them stretching into the distance. Your steps slow again. Something about this place feels important. Not because you recognize it, but because something inside you does. The air shifts once more, warmer now, heavier. The burnt smell deepens, mixing with something else, something sharper, something alive. You walk between the bears, your fingers trail slightly behind you, the blades hovering just above the surfaces. You don't touch anything, but you feel everything. The silence here isn't empty, and it's filled with something just beneath the surface, something waiting. There it happens. The sound breaks, not into clarity, but into something closer. A whisper, soft, fragile, almost lost the moment it forms. You stop completely. Your head tilts again, but this time there's no searching, because you already know where it came from. You turn slowly. One of the beds isn't empty. The figure lying there is still. Two still. You don't see their face clearly, just the outline, the shape of a body that feels both present and distant at the same time. The whisper comes again, slightly clearer. Not a word you understand, but a sound you recognize. Not from memory, from instinct. Your hand lifts again, not in confusion, not in hesitation, but in response. The blades glint faintly as they rise. The air around them feels different now, charged. Yes, expectant. You take a step closer to the bed, then another. The figure doesn't move, but you feel something shift. Not in them, in you. A quiet realization begins to form. Not in words, not in thoughts, but in certainty. This place isn't separate from you. These moments aren't new, they're repeating. You reach the side of the bed, you stand there looking down. The whisper stops, the silence returns. But it's no longer waiting, it's watching. Your fingers flex once more. The blades respond instantly, effortlessly, and this time, you don't hesitate. Because somewhere deep inside, something has already made the decision for you. You stand beside the bed, unmoving, as if the moment itself has chosen to stretch around you. The figure lying there remains still, their outline barely visible beneath the dim shifting shadows. But for a brief second nothing happens, no sound, no movement, just that quiet, heavy stillness pressing in from every direction. Your hand lingers in the air, the blades hovering just above the unseen surface of the bed. You don't lower it, you don't pull back, you simply remain, suspended between action and awareness. And then, something changes, not in the room, not in the figure. In you, it begins as a faint pressure behind your eyes. Not pain, but something close to it. A weight, a slow creeping force pushing against the inside of your mind, as if something long buried is beginning to surface. You don't resist it. You don't even think to. The pressure builds gradually, spreading through your thoughts like heat through metal, and then images, not clear, not complete, broken, fragmented, but real enough to feel. A street night. Dim lights flickering above empty sidewalks, the air thick with something familiar, that same burnt smell, but stronger, closer. You're standing there, or someone is, watching, waiting. A shape moves in the distance, small, young, running. The image shifts violently, a door slams, a room, walls darker than they should be, shadows pooling in the corners like something alive. A voice, no, voices, layered over each other. Angry, afraid, desperate. Then silence again. You blink slowly, but your eyes never fully close. The room around you, the beds, the figure, remains exactly where it was, but now it feels thinner, like it's no longer the only place you exist. Your hand lowers slightly, the blades brushing the edge of the bed. The sound they make is soft, almost gentle, but it echoes deeper than it should. And with that sound, more fragments surface. Flames, not wild, controlled, contained. A building, old, worn, windows dark, then light, sudden, violent, spreading through the structure like it's been waiting for permission. Heat presses against your skin, stronger than before, familiar. Your breathing doesn't change, it remains slow, measured, as if your body has already accepted this as normal. The images continue. A crowd, faces blurred, voices rising, anger, fear, and something else beneath it all. Something directed, focused. The feeling of being seen, not as a person, as something else, something that needs to be removed. The pressure behind your eyes fades slightly, replaced by something quieter, heavier, understanding without explanation. You look down at the figure on the bed again. This time, you see more. Not clearly, but enough. The rise and fall of their chest is shallow, uneven. Their head shifts slightly as if caught between sleep and something deeper. Their mouth opens just enough to release another faint sound. That whisper again. But now, it feels different. Not distant, not unclear, familiar. Your fingers twitch, the blades catching faint traces of movement in the darkness, and for the first time, you feel something close to intention. Not forced, not sudden, something that has always been there, now simply rising to the surface. You lean forward slightly. The air around the bed grows warmer, thicker. The shadows tighten, pulling closer to you as if drawn by your presence. The whisper stops completely. The figure becomes still, too still. The silence that follows isn't empty. It's full, waiting. You pause again, not because you're unsure, but because something inside you is aligning, settling into place. The fragments of memory don't return as images now. They return as feeling, the heat, the darkness, the watching, the inevitability. You straighten slightly, your head tilting just a fraction. The room around you flickers, subtly, almost imperceptibly, like it's struggling to remain stable. And then you understand something. Not everything, not yet, but enough. This isn't where it started. This isn't even where it ends. This is just one point in something that loops, repeats, expands. You look down at your hand again, at the blades, at the way they move without hesitation, without resistance. They don't feel like something added to you. They feel like something revealed. The room shifts again. The walls breathe slightly. The beds stretch further into the distance. And the figure beneath you doesn't feel like a stranger anymore. It feels like a beginning, not yours, theirs, and somewhere deep inside you something recognizes that difference and welcomes it. You remain beside the bed, the silence now thicker than before, as if the air itself has learned to wait with you. The figure beneath you doesn't move, but something about them feels more present now, more connected, not to the room, to you. Your gaze lingers, steady and unblinking, while that quiet understanding continues to settle deeper inside you. The fragments are no longer scattered. They are beginning to align, slowly, inevitably. You don't rush the feeling, you let it form on its own, because something inside you knows, it always does. The warmth in the air intensifies again, but this time it isn't distant or subtle. It's close. And immediate. It surrounds you without touching you like a memory that refuses to fade. You take a slow breath and the burnt scent fills your chest more completely than before. It doesn't feel foreign anymore. It feels familiar, necessary. Your hand lowers further, the blades grazing the surface beside the figure. The sound is softer now, less sharp, almost controlled. You don't look at your hand this time. You don't need to. Your focus remains fixed on the still body in front of you. The silence stretches again, but now it feels like a threshold, something waiting to be crossed. You lean in slightly, not quickly, never quickly. Your movements are slow, deliberate, as if guided by something deeper than thought. The figure's breathing shifts, barely noticeable, but enough. That uneven rhythm returns for a moment, then falters, then steadies again. You feel it, not with your ears, with something else, something inside you that responds without explanation. A flicker passes through your mind again, but this time it holds longer. A room filled with heat, walls darkened by smoke, the sound of something cracking, wood bending under pressure, the glow of fire reflected in glass, and beyond it, movement. You're there again, or you were, watching, waiting. The feeling returns with it. Not fear, not anger, something colder, something patient. You don't pull away from the memory, you let it pass through you, because now you understand it's not separate. It's part of this, part of you. Your head tilts slightly as you observe the figure more closely. Their outline sharpens just enough for you to notice the tension in their body, the way they're caught in something unseen, not fully awake, not fully asleep, trapped in between, just like this place, just like you. Your fingers flex slowly, and the blades respond with quiet precision. There's no hesitation in the movement now, no uncertainty, only alignment. The air grows heavier again, pressing gently against your skin, wrapping around you like something protective or possessive. It's difficult to tell the difference. You take another small step forward, closing the distance completely. You're standing over them now, close enough to feel the faint warmth of their presence beneath the colder weight of the room. The whisper returns. This time it's clearer, still fragile, still incomplete, but closer to forming something real. You don't try to understand it alone. You don't need to. But because something deeper within you already does. Your hand rises again, slowly. The blades hover just above the figure's chest. It's not touching, not yet. You pause there, not out of doubt, out of recognition. This moment isn't new. It has happened before many times, in different forms, in different places, but always like this, quiet, inevitable. You feel it then, not as a thought, as certainty. This is where it begins, not for you, for them. Your breathing remains steady, your body still, but inside something shifts completely. The last traces of confusion fade, replaced by something clearer, something sharper. The darkness around you doesn't just follow anymore, it responds, it listens, it moves with you in ways that feel intentional. You are no longer just inside this place, you are part of what shapes it. The whisper stops again. The figure beneath you becomes completely still, and in that silence, something settles into place. Your hand lowers slightly, the blades catching the faintest trace of movement in the air, and for the first time, there is no question left, only purpose. Not something you chose, something you are. The room holds its breath with you. The darkness tightens, focusing inward. And somewhere deep inside, the beginning doesn't feel like a beginning at all. It feels like something that has always been waiting to continue. You remain suspended in that final moment, your hand hovering just above the figure's chest. The blades perfectly still, as if even the slightest movement would disrupt something delicate, something already unfolding. The silence has changed again. It is no longer waiting, it is holding, containing. Like the entire space has tightened around this single point in time. You don't feel pressure, you don't feel urgency, only a slow, quiet pull downward. Your hand lowers just a fraction. The air shifts with it, subtle but undeniable. The warmth rises to meet you, thin at first, and then stronger. Not enough to comfort, just enough to be noticed. Your breathing remains slow, but something beneath it begins to move, not your heart. Something deeper, older. The blades descend closer, hovering just above the surface of the figure's clothing. You can feel the faint rhythm beneath. Uneven, fragile. It flickers like something struggling to remain stable. Your head tilts slightly as you observe it, not with curiosity, with recognition. The flicker isn't random. It is weakening. You know this without thinking, without remembering how you know. So your fingers flex once more and the blades respond instantly, aligning with a precision that feels practiced, perfected over time you cannot measure. The moment stretches again. You let it, because something inside you understands that this part matters, not the action itself, but the stillness before it. Your hand lowers further, the tip of one blade brushes against the ferrule. Soft, almost weightless, but the reaction is immediate. The figure beneath you inhales sharply, their body tensing in a sudden involuntary movement. Their head turns slightly, though their eyes remain closed. The whisper returns, but this time it isn't distant. It's right there, close, forming something that almost resembles your name, if you had one to remember. You don't react, you don't stop. Your hand remains where it is, the blade resting lightly now, and just enough to be felt. The air grows heavier around you, the shadows tightening further as if drawn into the point of contact. The figure's breathing becomes more erratic, rising and falling in shallow bursts. Their fingers twitch weakly at their sides. You feel it again, that quiet shift inside you. Not excitement, not hesitation, something steadier, something inevitable. The blade presses down slightly, not enough to break, just enough to deepen the contact. The reaction is stronger this time. A faint sound escapes the figure's throat, half breath, half something else. The whisper fractures, losing its shape, dissolving into something more raw. You lean in just slightly, your presence closing in around them. The warmth intensifies again, but now it carries something else with it. A tension, a pressure that doesn't belong to the room. It belongs to the moment. Your fingers tighten ever so slightly, and the blades respond with silent precision. The fabric beneath them begins to give way, slowly, reluctantly, as if resisting the inevitability of what comes next. The figure's body arches faintly, caught between sleep and something far less forgiving. You don't rush. You don't push further. You simply allow the moment to unfold at its own pace. Because somewhere deep inside you know this is not about speed. It never was. The first break comes softly, barely a sound, but you feel it, more than you hear it. The blade slips just beneath the surface, meeting resistance for only a moment before passing through. The figure's breath catches sharply, their body tightening completely now. The whisper stops altogether. The silence that replaces it is absolute. And in that silence, something settles, not around you, within you. The movement that follows is slow, controlled. The blade continues its path with a steady, deliberate motion, guided by something that doesn't require thought. You feel every inch of it, not physically, not the way you once might have, but in a way that feels far more complete. The figure beneath you grows still again, their earlier struggle fading into something quieter, something final. The tension in the air begins to ease just slightly. The shadows loosen their hold, drifting outward once more. You straighten slowly, your hand lifting away. The blades catch faint traces of what remains, dark and silent against the metal. You don't look at them. You don't need to. Your gaze remains fixed on the figure below. They are completely still now. No movement, no sound, just absence. And yet, the room doesn't feel empty. It feels full, fulfilled. The warmth fades gradually, replaced once again by that familiar steady cold. But this time, it doesn't feel wrong. It feels balanced, complete. You take a slow breath. The burnt scent returns stronger than before. But now, it carries something else beneath it. Something subtle, something satisfying in a way you don't question. Your fingers relax, the blade resting once more at your side. And for the first time, the silence around you doesn't feel like it's listening. It feels like it's agreeing. You remain standing over the still body, your posture unchanged, your breathing slow and steady as the last traces of movement fade completely from the figure beneath you. The room feels different now, not quieter, but settled, and as if something that had been building for a long time has finally reached its natural end. You don't move right away. You let the moment exist, or you let it stretch. Because something inside you understands that this stillness matters just as much as what came before it. The air around you begins to shift again, but this time it doesn't press or pull. It responds, subtle at first, almost unnoticeable. The shadows along the walls begin to move, not away from you, not toward you, but with you. You tilt your head slightly, observing the change without surprise. Your awareness expands just a fraction, and with it, the space changes. The rows of beds no longer feel fixed, the walls no longer feel solid. Everything around you carries a faint instability, like a surface that can be reshaped with the slightest intention. And your fingers twitch at your side and the blades respond instantly, catching the faintest traces of movement in the shifting darkness. But this time, it isn't just the blades that react. The shadows respond as well. A slight distortion ripples outward from you, barely visible but unmistakable. You don't question it. You simply notice. And in noticing, you begin to understand. You take a slow step back from the bed. The moment your foot touches the ground, the space behind you adjusts. The floor stretches, the distance shifting as if it's making room for your movement. The beds around you seem to drift further apart, their outlines softening at the edges. You take another step. The effect follows. The realization settles quietly inside you. This place doesn't exist independently. It responds to you. Not fully, not completely, but enough. And your breathing remains steady, but something beneath it deepens. A quiet sense of control begins to form, not forced, not sudden, but inevitable. You lift your hand slowly, not toward anything specific, just outward. The blades glint faintly as they rise, but your focus isn't on them anymore. It's on what follows. The shadows nearest to you ripple again more clearly this time. They stretch slightly, bending toward your movement as if drawn by an unseen current. You hold your hand there, suspended in the air. The space holds with you. Then slowly, you close your fingers. The shadows tighten, not dramatically, not violently, just enough to confirm what you already feel. You release your hand, the shadows relax, the room settles again. There is no hesitation now, no uncertainty, only quiet understanding. Should you turn your gaze back toward the rows of beds? They seem different now, not just objects, but points, places where something begins, something repeats. You walk forward again, your steps slow and deliberate, the space continuing to shift subtly with each movement. As you pass the next bed, you feel it immediately, not with your senses, with something deeper, a presence, faint, fragile, waiting. You stop beside it, just as you did before. The pattern is clear now, not because you remember it, but because you recognize it. Your head tilts slightly as you observe the still figure lying there. Their breathing is shallow, uneven, just like the last one. The whisper hasn't started yet, but you know it will. You don't rush, you don't reach out, you simply stand there, allowing the moment to unfold naturally. And because now you understand your place within it. The warmth begins to return, slowly building in the air around you. The burnt scent follows, wrapping around you like something familiar, something that belongs. You take a slow breath, and this time, it feels complete. Not wrong, not foreign, yours. Your fingers flex once more and the blades respond instantly, ready without effort, without thought. But you don't move yet. You wait. The whisper begins, faint, fragile. The same as before, you listen, not to the sound itself, but to what it signals. Your presence deepens. The shadows draw closer again, responding to you without resistance. And in that moment, something inside you becomes fully clear. This isn't something you learned. This isn't something you were given. This is something you are. The space, the silence, the figures lying between waking and something else, all of it exists within the same pattern, the same loop, and you are the one who moves through it. Not lost, not trapped, but necessary. You take a slow step closer to the bed, and this time there is no hesitation at all. You step closer to the bed without hesitation, your movement smooth, deliberate, as if guided by something that no longer needs to explain itself. The space around you adjusts instantly, the shadows tightening slightly, focusing inward as your presence settles beside the figure. The pattern is no longer unfamiliar. It doesn't feel new, it feels practiced, repeated more times than you can measure. You stand at the edge of the bed, your gaze resting on the faint outline beneath the darkness. Their breathing is shallow, uneven, caught in that fragile space between sleep and something deeper. You feel it clearly now, not just as an observation, but as a connection. A thin thread stretching between you and them. You don't question it, you don't analyze it, you simply recognize it. The warmth begins to build again, slowly filling the air around you. It no longer feels distant or intrusive. It feels like an extension of you spreading outward with quiet intention. The burnt scent follows, settling deeper into your breath. No longer something you notice, but something you carry. You lift your hand slowly, the blades rising with effortless precision. But this time your focus isn't on the movement itself. It's on what surrounds it. The shadows respond instantly. They stretch subtle at first, then more clearly, bending toward your hand as if drawn by an unseen force. Yet you pause there, holding the moment in place. The room holds with you. The figure beneath you remains still, but you feel the shift begin. The whisper forms earlier this time. Not faint, not distant. It emerges directly from them, fragile but immediate, like something already aware of what's coming. You don't react to the sound, you respond to the feeling behind it. Your fingers close slightly, and the shadows tighten in unison, wrapping closer around the bed, around the figure, around the space itself. You're not just inside the room anymore, you're shaping it. You lean forward just slightly, your presence pressing inward. The figure's breathing becomes more erratic, their body reacting before they fully understand why. Their head turns faintly, their mouth parting as the whisper fractures into something more desperate, more real. Yet you feel it clearly now, the exact moment they begin to sense you. Not see you, not understand you, but feel you. That thin line between sleep and awareness begins to tear, and you are standing right at the center of it. Your hand lowers slowly, but this time, the movement isn't guided by uncertainty or instinct alone. It's controlled, intentional. The blades hover just above them, and the shadows follow, pressing inward, narrowing the space around the bed. The room itself seems to breathe with you, expanding, contracting, responding. You pause again, holding the moment just before it breaks, and for the first time so you realize something more. You don't have to move forward. You don't have to rush the outcome, because this place, this state, it belongs to you. You could stay here, stretch this moment. Let it linger as long as you choose. The thought settles quietly inside you, not as a question, as a realization. Your fingers flex slightly, and the shadows respond again, tightening just enough to deepen the pressure around the figure. Their breathing sharpens, their body tensing more visibly now. The whisper collapses into fragmented sounds, slipping closer to panic. You hold them there, not physically, not directly, but completely. The control is subtle, but absolute. And in that control you feel something else awaken, not satisfaction, not excitement. Something quieter, something deeper. A sense of balance, of purpose fulfilled not through action, but through presence. You lean in just slightly more, your hand lowering another fraction. The blades hover so close now that the space between them feels almost non-existent. The figure beneath you reacts again, that their body caught in a silent struggle between waking and something far less forgiving. You could end it now. You could complete the pattern exactly as before, but you don't. Not yet. Because now you understand something more important. This isn't just about what happens, it's about how long it can last. The shadows tighten once more, responding to your quiet intention. The room bends around you, holding the moment in perfect suspension. And for the first time, you're not simply moving through the pattern. You're controlling it. You hold the moment in place, suspended between what has already happened and what is about to repeat. The figure beneath you remains trapped in that fragile state, their breathing shallow, uneven, caught in a rhythm that no longer feels entirely their own. You don't move. You don't need to. Because now, the space is moving for you. The shadows tighten and loosen in slow, controlled waves, responding to something deeper than motion. The room stretches slightly at the edges, the rows of beds blurring just enough to feel distant, as if they exist in layers rather than a single place. You feel it clearly now. This isn't just one moment. It's many, overlapping, repeating, folding into each other without end. Your hand remains steady, the blades hovering just above the figure. But your focus has shifted. It's no longer on the act itself. It's on the pattern surrounding it. You begin to notice it in small ways first. The way the whisper forms at nearly the same point. The way the breathing changes in the same uneven rhythm. The way the air thickens, warms, then settles again. None of it is random, none of it is new. That you've been here before. Not in memory, in repetition. Your head tilts slightly as the realization deepens. This isn't a path moving forward. It's a loop. You don't question how long it has been repeating, because something inside you already knows the answer wouldn't matter. The figure beneath you shifts faintly, their body reacting to something they cannot see, sis. The whisper fractures again, breaking into uneven fragments that dissolve into the heavy air. You listen, not to the sound, but to the timing of what. And you recognize it. The exact moment it always happens. Your fingers flex slightly, and the shadows respond with perfect precision, tightening just enough to hold the figure exactly where they are, not escaping, not waking, suspended. You lean in slightly, your presence pressing deeper into the space around them. Now the warmth intensifies again, wrapping around both of you, but now it feels cyclical, rising, falling, returning, just like everything else here. The thought settles quietly inside you. This doesn't end. It resets. You don't react to the realization with fear. You don't try to resist it, because something deeper within you has already accepted it, not as a limitation of Shamun, but as a function. You are not caught in the loop. You are part of what maintains it. Your hand lowers slightly, the blades nearing contact once more. The figure beneath you tenses, their breathing breaking into short, uneven bursts. The whisper collapses entirely now, replaced by silence that feels sharper than sound. You pause again, not because you need to, because you choose to. The moment stretches longer this time, longer than before. The space responds immediately, and holding everything in place with quiet obedience. The shadows stop shifting, the air becomes still. Even the faint movement of the figure seems to slow, as if time itself is adjusting to your control. You lift your hand slightly, the blades rise, the pressure eases, the figure's breathing stabilizes just enough to continue. You watch it happen, you feel it happen, and then you lower your hand again. The cycle resumes. The reaction returns exactly as before, the tension, the silence, the inevitability. But now, you understand something fully. You're not repeating this because you have to. You're repeating it because this is what you're meant to do, not once, not twice, but endlessly. The room shifts again, the rows of beds becoming clearer for a brief moment. You see them stretching far beyond what should be possible, and each one holding a different point in the same pattern, the same moment, the same beginning, the same end. You straighten slightly, your gaze moving beyond the figure in front of you for the first time. And what you see doesn't surprise you. It confirms what you already feel. This is not one room, not one place. It is a space without edges, a system without end. And you move through all of it. One moment at a time, one figure at a time, always the same, always different. Your fingers relax, the blades settling once more at your side. The shadows loosen slightly, but they do not drift away. They remain close, attentive, ready, because they are not separate from you. They are part of how you exist here. You look down at the figure again. They are still there, still caught, still waiting. And you know, when this moment completes, another will begin. It always does. The silence settles around you once more, but now it no longer feels like something you enter. It feels like something you carry. You remain where you are, the stillness settling deeper into the space around you, but now it feels different. Not empty, not waiting. It feels stretched, as if the silence itself has been pulled thin across something far larger than this single moment. Your gaze lingers on the figure beneath you, but your awareness begins to drift beyond them. Not physically, something else, something quieter. You feel the presence of the other beds again, not as shapes, but as points, each one holding the same fragile state, the same beginning, the same inevitable end. You don't need to look at them to know they're there. You feel them, faint, or distant, but connected. And within that connection, something new begins to form, not confusion, not curiosity, something heavier. You straighten slowly, your posture shifting just enough to pull your presence away from the figure in front of you. The moment loosens slightly, the tension easing just enough to allow the space to breathe again. But the feeling doesn't leave, it expands. Your head turns slightly, though there is nothing specific to look at. The darkness stretches endlessly, the rows of beds fading into something that no longer feels countable. Not dozens, not hundreds, more, far more. The realization doesn't come as a shock. It settles quietly, like something you've always known but never needed to face directly. This isn't one place, it isn't even a collection of places. It's a network. It's a system that exists beyond simple distance. And you move through all of it alone. The thought doesn't disturb you at first, it simply exists, but as it settles deeper, Something shifts. You take a slow step back, your foot touching the ground with that same hollow echo. But this time, the sound doesn't stretch outward. It fades quickly, swallowed by the vastness around you. You take another step. The effect is the same. The space feels larger now. Not because it has changed, but because you are no longer focused on a single point within it. Your awareness has widened. And with that awareness comes something else. You pause again, your fingers flexing slightly at your side. The blades respond, but your attention barely lingers on them. Instead, you focus on what you feel beyond the immediate space. The other moments, the other figures, and each one caught in the same fragile balance, and one repeating the same cycle, and in every single one, you are there. The understanding deepens slowly, but completely. You're not moving from one to another. You exist across all of them, not fully, not separately, but enough to maintain the pattern, enough to continue it. The weight of that realization settles quietly inside you, not as fear, not as resistance, but as something heavier, something closer to isolation. You tilt your head slightly, your gaze lowering once more to the figure beneath you. They remain still, their breathing faint, their presence fragile. This moment continues, just as it always does, but now it feels smaller, not because it matters less, but because it is only one part of something far greater. You lift your hand slightly, and watching the shadows respond in quiet synchronization. They tighten, then loosen, moving with you without question. They are always there, always close, but they are not separate. They do not replace what you now understand. They do not fill the space around you, because that space without is vast, endless, and empty. You don't rush the thought. You let it settle at its own pace. Because something inside you knows this isn't something that can be changed. This is not a condition, not a mistake. This is how it is meant to be. You take another slow breath, the burnt scent filling your chest once more. It feels familiar, feels constant, but it doesn't fill the space. It only reminds you of it. Your fingers relax again, the blades resting quietly at your side. The shadows remain close, but they do not close the distance you now feel. Yet you look down at the figure once more. They are still there, still waiting, still part of the pattern, and you remain with them, as you always do, as you always will, because the loop continues, the system holds, and within it, you're everywhere, but never with anything. You remain standing in that expanding awareness, the vastness of the space no longer something distant, but something that exists within you as much as around you. The figure beneath you is still there, still breathing faintly, still caught in that fragile balance. But your connection to them has shifted. They are no longer the center. They are part of something much larger. And within that realization, something begins to fade. It starts quietly, not as a loss you can measure, not as something you can name, more like a soft erosion, as in a slow removal of something that once defined you but no longer holds its shape. You don't resist it. You don't even recognize it at first. You simply notice the absence as it grows. You try, for a brief moment, to focus inward, to find something that feels like you, a memory, a name, a point of origin. But there is nothing solid to hold on to, only fragments, faint scattered impressions that dissolve the moment you reach for them. A face unclear, a voice distant, a feeling gone before it forms. You tilt your head slightly, not in confusion but in observation, because even this feels familiar. Not the content, the process, the gradual slipping away of something that once mattered. You lift your hands slowly, the blades catching the faintest reflection of movement in the shifting darkness. You look at them, not as something separate, but as something constant. They have not changed, they have not faded. They remain exactly as they are, precise, defined, real, and like everything else. You lower your hand again. Your attention shifts outward once more. The rows of beds stretch endlessly in every direction, each one holding the same fragile moment, the same quiet beginning. And in every one of them, you are present. Not as a person, not as an identity, as a function. The realization settles deeper this time. You're not becoming something new. You're losing what no longer applies. The concept of self, of being someone, something defined, It begins to dissolve completely. There is no need for it here, no purpose, no place for it to exist. You take a slow step forward, though movement itself feels less important now. The space adjusts instantly. The shadows responding without hesitation. They do not question, they do not change, they simply follow, because they are not separate from you. They never were. You pass another bed, another figure, another moment waiting to unfold. You feel it clearly, but you do not stop. Not because it doesn't matter, but because stopping is no longer tied to decision. It happens when it needs to, not when you choose it. The distinction fades as easily as everything else. Your breathing remains steady, but even that feels less like something you do, and more like something that happens, a rhythm that continues whether you focus on it or not. You pause again, though you do not know exactly why. The figure in front of you, this one or the last one or any of them, feels identical now, not in appearance, in function, each one part of the same cycle, and each one a point where something begins and ends. You lift your hand slightly, the blades rising with that same effortless precision. But there is no hesitation, no awareness of choice. The movement simply occurs. The shadows respond instantly, tightening around the space, holding everything in place. The figure reacts as expected, the faint shift, the uneven breath, the whisper forming at the edge of silence. You observe it without reaction, not because you're indifferent, but because there is nothing left to compare it to. There is no before, no version of you that would see this differently. There is only this. The moment unfolds exactly as it always does. The pattern continues without deviation, and you remain within it, not as someone experiencing it, but as something sustaining it. Your hand lowers slowly. The blades move with quiet certainty. The figure beneath you responds in the same way, their fragile state collapsing into the inevitable. You do not watch closely. You do not turn away. You simply exist as it happens, because this is no longer an action. It is a continuation. The shadows loosen again as the moment completes. The space settles. The next point begins somewhere else, already forming, already waiting. And you move with it. Not as a person, not as a presence, but as something that no longer requires a name. You continue moving without needing to decide to move, the space unfolding around you in quiet alignment with whatever remains of your presence. The shift is no longer noticeable as change. It is constant. It is expected. The vastness that once felt distant now feels ordinary, not because it has lessened, but because you have adjusted to it. The endless rows, the repeating moments, the fragile figures caught between states, they no longer overwhelm your awareness. They settle into it. You do not try to understand them anymore. You no longer search for meaning or difference. Because there is none that matters. You pause beside another bed, not out of intention, but because this is where you are. The figure lies beneath you, their breathing faint, uneven, caught in the same pattern you have already moved through countless times. There is no anticipation, no curiosity, only recognition without attachment. Your hand lifts slowly, the blades following with perfect, effortless precision. The movement is clean, familiar, unquestioned. The shadows respond instantly, tightening around the space as they always do, shaping the moment without resistance. The air grows warmer, the burnt scent returning in its steady, constant way. It does not surprise you. It does not shift your awareness. It simply exists as part of everything else. The figure beneath you reacts as expected, the faint movement, the fragile whisper forming at the edge of silence, the subtle tension building within their body as something deeper begins to surface. You do not focus on it closely. You do not need to. You already know how it will unfold. Your hand lowers slowly, the blades hovering just above them. You do not pause this time. There is no need to extend the moment, no reason to hold it. The cycle does not require variation. It continues because it continues. The blades descend with quiet certainty. The contact is soft, controlled, immediate. But the figure responds in the same way they always do. The breath catching, the tension rising, the whisper breaking apart into silence. You remain still as it happens, your presence steady, unchanged. There is no shift within you, no reaction, because this is not something you experience anymore. It is something that occurs through you. The moment completes, the tension fades, the space loosens once more, and you step back, Not because you choose to, because the pattern moves you forward. The shadows follow, drifting slightly outward, then settling again at your side. Always present, always aligned. You move past the bed, your awareness barely lingering on what remains. It does not hold you. It does not need to, because the next moment is already forming. You feel it before you reach it. The faint presence is the fragile state waiting to be entered. It is the same, it is always the same, and you adjust to it without thought, without effort. The darkness around you no longer feels like something separate. It does not press against you. It does not surround you. It exists with you, within you, as naturally as the movement itself. You take another slow step, and the space shifts accordingly, opening, reshaping, aligning with your presence. The endless repetition does not feel endless anymore. It feels still, balanced, complete in its own quiet way. There is no sense of time passing, no sense of progression, only continuity. Each moment blending into the next without interruption, without distinction. You pause again beside another bed, another figure, another point in the pattern. Your hand lifts once more, the blades reflecting faint traces of movement in the dark. The shadows tighten again, responding instantly, shaping the moment exactly as they should. There is no hesitation, no delay. The motion continues as it always does. The figure reacts, the whisper forms, the tension rises, the cycle completes, and you move on. The process repeats without disruption, without variation, not because it must, but because this is how it exists. You do not question it. You do not resist it. You do not seek to change it, because there is nothing left within you that requires something different. The darkness remains steady. The space remains infinite, and you remain exactly where you are meant to be, not lost, not trapped, simply aligned. You continue moving through the pattern without interruption, each step blending into the next, and each moment unfolding exactly as it always has. The space remains stable in its instability, shifting just enough to accommodate you, but never enough to change what it is. The rows of beds stretch endlessly, each one holding the same fragile state, the same quiet beginning, the same inevitable end. You no longer count them, you no longer try to understand how far they go, because distance no longer matters here, nothing does. And yet, something changes. Not in the pattern, not in the figures, in the space between them. It begins as a subtle distortion, barely noticeable, a slight resistance in the air, as if something is attempting to exist outside of the cycle. You pause, not because you choose to, but because the movement pauses with you. The shadows tighten slightly, responding to your stillness, waiting as they always do. You turn your head slowly, your awareness extending outward, searching not with intention but with recognition. And then you feel it. Something different, faint, fragile but distinct, not part of the pattern, not aligned with it. It flickers at the edge of your awareness, like a moment that doesn't belong. You take a step toward it. The space resists, just slightly. Not enough to stop you, just enough to be noticed. The shadows hesitate for the first time, their movements slowing as if uncertain. You continue forward. The distortion becomes clearer now. A break in the repetition, a space where the cycle does not fully hold. You approach it slowly, your presence pressing against it without effort, and within that distortion, something moves. Not like the figures on the beds, not trapped, not waiting. It shifts unevenly, unpredictably, and as if it does not understand the structure around it. You stop just short of it. Your head tilts slightly as you observe. The shape within the distortion is unclear, unstable. But it carries something you have not felt in a long time. Resistance, not against you, against the pattern itself. The realization settles quietly. This is not part of the system. This is something trying to escape it. Your fingers flex slightly, the blades responding instantly. The shadows tighten again, though more slowly this time, as if adjusting to something unfamiliar. You take another step closer. The distortion reacts. It pulls back slightly, its form shifting in uneven waves, like something struggling to hold itself together. You feel it clearly now. This is not repetition, this is deviation. You lift your hand slowly, the blades rising into view. The shadows gather around you, though not as smoothly as before. They hesitate, then align as if correcting themselves. The distortion flickers again, more violently this time. The shape within it shifts, almost forming something recognizable. A face, a memory, a fragment of something that does not belong here. For a brief moment, something inside you responds, not as identity, not as memory, but as recognition of something that once existed. It fades quickly. The pattern reasserts itself. Your hand lowers slightly, the blades hovering at the edge of the distortion. The space tightens around it. The shadows pressing inward, attempting to contain it. The distortion resists. It flickers, pulling away, it is form breaking apart and reforming in uneven bursts. You hold your position, not forcing, not rushing, because something deeper within you understands what happens next. This cannot continue. The pattern does not allow for it. Your fingers close slowly. The shadows respond instantly this time, tightening with more certainty, wrapping around the distortion, pressing inward with quiet inevitability. The shape within it struggles once more, its movement frantic, uneven. Then it slows. The resistance weakens. The distortion begins to collapse, folding inward, losing its form piece by piece. The space stabilizes again. The pattern returns. The shadows loosen slightly, settling back into their natural alignment. You lower your hand completely. The blades rest at your side once more. The distortion is gone. Not moved, not escaped. Removed. You do not react. You do not reflect. Because there is nothing left to consider. The system holds. Oh, it always does. You turn slightly, your movement smooth, uninterrupted. The rows of beds stretch before you once again, endless, unbroken. The pattern continues. And now it is complete again. You take a slow step forward, and the cycle resumes exactly as it should. You move forward without resistance, your steps returning to their quiet, steady rhythm as the pattern closes seamlessly behind you. The distortion is gone, not leaving even the faintest trace. The space has corrected itself completely. The rows of beds stretch endlessly once more, each one holding its place, each one aligned within the cycle. Nothing feels broken now, nothing feels out of place. The system holds, and you continue within it. There is no hesitation in your movement, no lingering awareness of what briefly disrupted the pattern. That's because that moment no longer exists. It has no function here, and without function, it fades. You pause beside another bed. The figure beneath you lies still, their breathing faint, uneven, suspended in that fragile space between sleep and something deeper. It is the same as before, it is always the same. Your hand lifts slowly, the blades rising with quiet precision. The shadows respond instantly, tightening around the space as shaping the moment without hesitation. There is no delay now, no pause before the cycle begins, because you no longer hold the moment in place, but you no longer extend it. You allow it to unfold exactly as it is meant to. Your hand lowers. The blades descend. The figure reacts. The whisper forms and breaks. The tension rises and fades. The moment completes. You step back. The space loosens. The pattern continues. There is no variation, no interruption, and now there is no awareness of anything beyond it. The vastness around you no longer feels heavy. It no longer feels empty. It simply exists, and within it, you exist as well. Not as something separate, not as something observing, as something that belongs. You move again. The space adjusts instantly. The shadows follow. Always aligned, always responsive. You pass another bed, another figure, another moment waiting to begin, and you do not pause to consider it. You do not question the repetition, because there is nothing left within you that seeks difference. Your breathing remains steady, though even that feels distant now. Not something you control, not something you notice. It simply continues as everything else does. You stop beside another bed. The pattern unfolds, the movement occurs. As the moment completes, and you move on. Each step is the same, each moment is the same, and within that sameness there is no discomfort, no awareness of loss, no memory of what was before, only continuation. The shadows remain close, their presence constant but unremarkable. They do not draw your attention, they do not change, they are simply part of how the space responds. Your hand lifts again, the blades rise, the motion is clean, effortless, without hesitation. The cycle repeats, the figure reacts, the moment ends, you step back and forward again. There is no beginning to this, no end, only the sequence unfolding exactly as it should. You do not seek to stop it, you do not seek to change it, because there is nothing within you that exists outside of it anymore. The concept of choice has faded. The concept of self has dissolved. But what remains is something simpler, something more stable. Function. You are not trapped here. You are not lost here. You are part of what makes this place what it is. The pattern does not exist without you, and you do not exist outside of the pattern. The understanding does not come as a realization. It is simply present, constant, unquestioned. You move again, the space responds, the shadows follow, the cycle continues, and within it, there is nothing left to resist, nothing left to remember, nothing left to become, only what you are, and what you have always been. You continue forward, your movement smooth and uninterrupted, the space unfolding around you exactly as it always has. The pattern holds perfectly now. There are no distortions, no resistance, no fragments left behind to disrupt the sequence. Everything is aligned, yet everything is complete. The rows of beds stretch endlessly in every direction, each one carrying the same fragile moment, the same quiet beginning, waiting to become the same inevitable end. You do not count them, you do not measure them, because there is no distance here, no separation, only repetition without boundary. You pause beside another bed. The figure beneath you lies still, their breathing faint, uneven, caught in that familiar threshold. You do not observe them closely. You do not need to. You already know what they are, what they will become. Your hand lifts slowly, the blades rising with perfect precision. The shadows respond instantly, tightening around the space, shaping the moment without hesitation. There is no pause, no delay. The motion continues as it always does. Your hand lowers, the blades descend. The figure reacts, the whisper forms and breaks, the tension rises and fades, the moment completes. You step back, the space loosens, and you move forward again. The cycle continues, seamless, unbroken, infinite. There is no awareness of time passing, no sense of duration. Each moment exists fully, then dissolves into the next without leaving anything behind. There is no accumulation, no memory carried forward, only continuity. You pass another bed, another figure, another moment forming. Your movement does not change. Your presence does not shift. The shadows remain aligned, responding to you without question, without delay. You pause again. The pattern unfolds, the motion completes. You move on. There is no difference between one moment and the next, no variation that matters, and within that sameness, there is stability. And there is balance, not something you feel, something that simply is. The darkness around you does not press or pull, it does not surround you. It exists with you as naturally as the movement itself, as naturally as the cycle continuing without end. You take another step, and another. The space adjusts instantly, always aligned with your presence, always shaped by it. You do not think about it. You do not control it consciously. It happens, because this is how it exists. You stop beside another bed. The figure lies there, waiting without knowing they are waiting. Your hand lifts again. The blades rise, the shadows tighten, the moment unfolds, the reaction occurs, the silence returns. You step back, and forward again. The sequence continues exactly as it always has. There is no beginning to trace, no origin to return to. But whatever existed before this no longer holds meaning, because it no longer exists. There is only this, the pattern, the repetition, the endless unfolding of moments that never truly change. You're not within it. You're part of it, not as something separate, not as something aware of itself, but as something that continues, without interruption, without variation, without end. The rows extend beyond anything that can be seen, beyond anything that needs to be seen, because seeing is no longer necessary, knowing is no longer necessary, only being, only continuation. You move again. The space responds, the shadows follow, the cycle completes, and begins again, and again, and again. There is no final moment, no point where it stops, no point where it changes, only the endless repetition of what has already been established. And within that endless repetition, there is no absence, no emptiness, no need for anything more, because everything that exists here already is, and always will be.